Bonjour Paris. Comment je switch? Je clique. So we're going to talk about NoSQL. So first of all, I'm going to introduce myself. So my name is Seng. I'm working for a company called Serli as a Java developer. So for those of you who doesn't know Serli, it's an IT and services company located in Poitiers, somewhere in France. And we are doing most Java development, most of us. The interesting thing with Serli is that we're doing open source contribution for projects like Glassfish or JBoss. And we prepared this presentation about NoSQL with our partner Couchbase. So I'd like to thank them to give us the opportunity to do this presentation. So what we are going to talk about. So this talk is about NoSQL for people who have heard about NoSQL but may not know exactly what it's about and needs to get some clue to choose NoSQL or not. So we're going to talk about first why classical relational database may not be enough, and then I'm going to show you the different types of NoSQL database, and then maybe give you some clues to choose the right one for you. So if we are going back in time, you all know Instagram. When they released the Android version of the application, they had nearly 1 million users coming to the application and using the application in one night, and it's huge. So this is the kind of thing we're trying to deal with NoSQL. If we look at an example with a classical relational database, a site with a relational database architecture. So most of the time you have lots of users in the front coming into a load balancer that will dispatch the request into the several web servers. And then you have a single relational database. So that's an example. So what I want to say is that relational databases are good to what they are good for, great for. So they're good to keep your data safe and consistent. But when it's about dealing with lots of data and a lot of users, we are getting into trouble. So for some sites like Facebook, Twitter, or Google, for instance, Twitter is, I think it's okay for them to lose one tweet in the 10,000 tweets they may have. So to lose one tweet is okay, so the user will just retweet it. But if it's a bank application, you don't want to lose anything. So be careful. So this is the architecture with NoSQL database. So you can see that there is a cluster of database servers to help to deal with the amount of users coming into the application. And so if I take the example of Couchbase, to make it work, there's 4 things in each of the nodes, cache. So to make the data accessible in a faster way. And the second thing is what we call sharding. The other one is horizontal partition. It's about splitting your data into the several nodes. What I mean is that all your data will not be stored in a single node. Means that you don't have the whole database in a node. Sharding is about so splitting your data in the several nodes, and the whole cluster will represent the whole database. And
But you would say, yes, but if there's something wrong with one of the nodes, what's happening? Couchbase, what Couchbase do is doing replication. So you can replicate some shards of one of the nodes to other nodes. And you can say, I want two nodes that are in two or three replicates, for instance. So if one is going down, we still have all the data available. The good thing with Couchbase is also what we call the distributed queries. So when you do a query in one of the nodes, and if the data is in another node, what it will do is actually retrieve in one query, retrieve all the data from the server that are on the other nodes. And the last thing is what's happening if you have 1 million users coming into your application. So you're gonna be noticed by your monitoring system. We say, oh, the results of a user coming, and we need more machine. And what you could do with Couchbase is add new nodes dynamically. And there's a feature called auto-sharding, which will actually redistribute all the data that were in the several nodes into the new nodes that you have added. So what you would do is on this without shutting down your application or your database. So it will be live. And this is good because if you have a lot of users, 1 million users in a night, you will be able to just add in Amazon, for instance, more database servers, and it will automatically do the auto-sharding. And it will scan. And the fact is that most of the NoSQL database provides at least the cluster modes and the in-memory caching, so you can scale. Okay, so here is a list of all the NoSQL types that you're gonna find in the market, or in the open source market. So there's several types. The first one is so most of them are schemaless, means that you don't have to define a specific schema. You don't have to. So it's very flexible for your developers. So the first one is the key value type. So key value, you can see this like a big hash map. It's just you have the key and the value. It's simple and it's fast. So the kind of application you can build with key value store can be session management, user profile or preference features, or shopping carts. The second one I'm showing you is the data structure type. It's actually a key value, but in the value you can put more than just the integer or string types. You can put, for instance, a blob, list, set, and hash. So it's a key value, but with more data structure. The third one is a document. So here, so Couchbase is a document type, NoSQL database. For those who doesn't know anything about documents, it's you can see. I will take an example of a user as a document. So a user contains a first name, a last name, a username. We contain several phone numbers, and it can also contain an address, which would contain the street name, the zip code, and etc. So this is a document. And Couchbase is storing documents as JSON document, so it's gonna be easily integrated into the very new JS framework that I'm sure you're using, like AngularJS, for instance. So kind of application you're gonna build with it would be event logging, content management applications, web analytics, or e-commerce application. Almost the last one, columns type. you can see it like a very flexible table. So again, I will take the example of the user. If you have a table user, usually in the classical SQL database, you have columns, like the first name, last name, username, etc. etc. The thing is with columns types database is that all these columns are not monetary, so it's flexible. You can say that your user will contain only the username, the first name and last name, and that's all. And the second user will contain the username and the address. So it's there's nothing tied to a schema, and you can do whatever, pretty much whatever you want. Kind of application you can do with it would be event logging, content management, and counters. So the last one, graph. I think it's, with documents, it's one of the most interesting. It's actually, if you take Neo4j, for instance, it's actually document like a NoSQL database. But you have more than that. You have a relation. So you can connect your documents with with relations. And the nice things with Neo4j, sorry, it's that there is a very nice query feature to search into your relation and your graph into the database. So it's very useful for instance, if you want to build an application that do a recommendation on a social graph, that's the thing to do. And I think that's the French social site Viadeo is using Neo4j, I think. Okay, next, I'm sure you have heard about Hadoop. So we talked just before about NoSQL database. So NoSQL database is about storing your data. Hadoop is about processing your data. So the most famous piece, so it's a framework with lots of pieces to build your tools to process the big data. So the most famous piece of Hadoop is, of course, MapReduce to process your data in a distributed way. So you will be able to split your task into multiple tasks and execute them in several cluster nodes. There is OZ, which is a workflow scheduler. What else? Which is interesting? HDFS at the bottom. It's a distributed file system. Of course, MapReduce needs to take some information in input and put other information in output. And HDFS is just here to store this information. So it will be distributed into several clusters, so all the cluster nodes would have access to this file system, the same file system. And to finish, when we are talking about, I've been to a concert yesterday with a friend who is a Postgres fan, and he was asking me, so what's NoSQL? My answer is, NoSQL is just anything but SQL, an SQL database. So the thing is, so you would find, as I show you, lots of database types. But even if the classification I've shown you, each database have their own characteristics. So there's no standard. They're all different in a certain way. And so you have to look at it and play with it to see if it really fits to you. I think the thing that you're gonna use to choose the right one is maybe think about your developer productivity and about how this database will scale with what you need to do. And that's all.